This is Emily Blackshear with the Oklahoma Oral History Research Program at the OSU Library. Today is Friday, August 23rd, 2019, and I'm in Nichols Hills, Oklahoma, interviewing Jane Jayroe Gamble for the Oklahoma Women's Hall of Fame Oral History Project. Jane was inducted into the Oklahoma Women's Hall of Fame in 2018. Thanks for taking the time to talk to me.
My pleasure.
Let's begin by learning a little bit about you. Could you tell me where you were born, where you grew up, and give me a little background into your early life?
Okay. I was born in Clinton, Oklahoma. My parents lived in Hammond, Oklahoma at the time. My dad was a basketball coach. Hammond's a really small town and goes to Clinton for all medical and hospital services. So my sister was almost 5 years old when I was born, and my parents were both school teachers, and Hammond was little, but was a great experience there. We moved from there to Sentinel, Oklahoma, which is in Ouachita County in the southwest corner of Oklahoma. My dad had grown up in Sentinel, and so that was a return home for him. But mostly I just remember Sentinel. I don't remember Hammond other than we would revisit it because my parents had great friends there. But I just remember really Sentinel. My mother taught school. She went back to teaching when I was 3. And my dad had all the basketball teams. So I was left at home with a babysitter during the day, and I remember her vividly. Her name was Faye. And we had a great time. But after school, then Mother never left me because I'd been with a caretaker all day. So I grew up going to lots and lots of basketball games. And I think that impacted me greatly because I still am a huge basketball fan. But because he had junior high and high school, boys and girls, we were at games almost every night of the week. And at home and away, I would be taken on the school bus along with the team. And I just remember it very fondly with my mom and sister. And my dad would drive the bus and be the coach. So it was a great way to grow up. That kind of describes my childhood, that kind of closeness with family and the school, which is so much the center of small communities. So we stayed there until, and the church, of course, we were always really active at church. And we stayed in Sentinel until the summer before my freshman year in high school. And then we moved to Laverne, Oklahoma, which another small town, and it's in northwestern Oklahoma. To me, it was a big town because there were double the number of students in the classroom. I moved from about, I don't know, maybe 18 in my class to a huge class of like 63. And they had a football team and a marching band. And so we really thought we were moving to a much bigger town. And I got to play in the marching band. I thought that was fabulous. And in hindsight, it was, Sentinel was wonderful. But I was really benefited from the move to Laverne. I think it helped me in building confidence about handling change because I thought, oh my gosh, I can't move. I was shy, and how will I ever make friends? And so just handling that big a change was an important confidence builder when it came time to choose a university. I wasn't as intimidated because I'd already handled one big change. But also, Laverne was very special in the class that I entered into. It was a class of overachievers, especially for a little tiny town. There were just a number of extraordinary students in that class. So I went from having a very, very small class where things had always been very easy for me, to a class where everything was competitive. I played on a basketball team, which was one of the best in the state. We went to the state tournament every year I was in high school, and were just extremely great basketball team, girls basketball team. There were a lot of kids in my class that did very well academically, that got PhDs and had good offers. Now, it's not a wealthy community by any stretch, but that class of students really had some extraordinary people. The most noted one would be a Baptist minister's child who they moved. He didn't graduate with us, but this family moved to town my freshman year when I had moved. And Jimmy was the oldest, and he could play the piano like no one I'd ever heard, which was fabulous for me because music was always my passion. Mm-hmm. And so because of Jimmy and because there was someone to play the piano, because I loved to sing, we had that in common. And I would sing and he would play at every event in Harper County just about. I mean, you just ask us and we'd do it because we both loved to perform. He had all these grandiose ideas and he'd come in, he'd just play. He'd come over to the house and he'd sit down and he'd say, I was thinking about a movie and here's how it would sound. And he'd play and play and play. Well, they left. The family moved to California. At 19, at the age of 19, Miss America happened for me. At the age of 19, Jimmy Webb, my friend, wrote Up, Up, and Away for the Fifth Dimensions. By the time I get to Phoenix, he was one of the hottest composers in America. I mean, it was amazing when you think about it. I don't compare my own fame at all to Jimmy's lifelong accomplishment of writing music. But he left the little towns. He tried to go to college and that didn't work for him at all. And he started playing the piano for all sorts of groups, including the Supremes. And he ended up with the Fifth Dimensions, which created a lot of fame for him. But that gives you a taste of what wasn't quite an ordinary group of kids who were in that little school. It was very special. I felt like it was very special.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So tell me about college and where you went and what you majored in.
College was, I had an opportunity, my first pageant experience was in the Miss Cinderella pageant, which Northwestern State University sponsored, which is in Alva. And they do it for senior girls in that area of Oklahoma. And so I entered Miss Laverne in the Miss Cinderella pageant. And I won Miss Cinderella. And part of winning was to get a scholarship to Northwestern. Now I was so thrilled to win Miss Cinderella. And it was such an affirmation for me. But my heart was really set on going to Oklahoma City University. It was a Methodist school, which was important to me. It was a small school. But the main thing was the reputation it had for the performing arts. And I had dreams. I didn't really share them with anyone, but I just had dreams of performing. And I don't think I ever really thought about being on Broadway. I love music theater so much, and that just to be able to do that. The other real attraction for me is I had this big dream of being in a USO show, being in a performing group in college that would perform for our military throughout the world. And OCU had such a group. It was called Surrey Singers. And every year, for years and years, they would go on USO tours. And so I wanted that so badly, to be a Surrey singer and to go on a USO tour. And also I knew that that they had a lot of girls, not at that time, but they were beginning to have a lot of young women who entered the Miss America Pageant, and that was another dream that I had. So I really wanted to go to Oklahoma City University. It was a big stretch for my parents financially, especially since I had this other opportunity to go at a reduced rate in Alva, and bless my parents' heart, they knew that it was my dream, that my heart was set on OCU. And I got a small scholarship, and they stepped up and did the rest. And so I chose Oklahoma City University, and it was one of those, everyone has turning points in their lives that if they went this way, this happened. If they went another way, something else would have happened. And really, Laverne, just moving to Laverne, I love Sentinel, but moving to Laverne for me was an important turning point in creating the future that I've been able to have. Going to Oklahoma City University was a big turning point. It's not that I would have had a bad life going to Northwestern. It's just that the dreams that I had, and because I'm a person of faith, I really believe that God's hand was on me, and that by being a person of faith, I lean into that. I really feel strongly that I was led to that decision, and then the circumstances fell into place. And really God gave me the courage to step out, because I didn't know anyone at OCU. I was intimidated to come to Oklahoma City and come to a place all by myself when others were going, with people they knew. But it was perfect for me. From the very beginning, it was perfect. The perfect place for me.
Yeah, it sounds like it. You won Miss Oklahoma too, right? Can you tell me about that and just what led up to Miss America and what that experience was like for those listeners who...
Sure, I came to OCU as a freshman, and it's very humbling because it does attract really talented people. And so I went from, feeling a little confident about my performing ability to having no confidence, because I was really at the beginning and at the bottom of the barrel, as most freshmen are in a music program. But then my sophomore year, I was feeling better, and I just had such a great experience there. At the time, they didn't have a lot in music theater in the sense of anything but opera. But I was with the great voice teacher, Mrs. Silberg. She was the premier voice teacher at the time, Inez Silberg. And she was just as hard on me as if I were one of her star pupils. And I found that across the board, and I think that's one of the real assets of OCU, is that you may be the most recruited student there, or you may be much less than that in terms of the talent pool, but everyone is treated as if they're the most important student there, because who knows what their future will, who knows what their influence could be as a teacher, as a volunteer, or just as a citizen of a community. So they're there to be the best that they can be, and I think that really is the mantra of the whole process. Yeah. So I had fabulous professors that treated me as if I was as important as Leona Mitchell, who was just, it was not my class, but she was just a few classes behind me, who did end up singing at the Metropolitan Opera. So my freshman year, I just, got stabilized, loved it, had great experience. Came back my sophomore year, I knew I could audition for Surrey Singers. I had a good experience my freshman year. With my sorority, they put me up for All College Queen. And that was not something voted on by student body, that was something that was judged like a pageant. And I won that. And so that was another confidence builder in terms of entering the Miss America pageant. So the next year, the director of the Miss Oklahoma City pageant contacted me and asked me to enter. Now that, I'm not ready yet. I haven't developed my talent well enough. I'm not experienced enough, but I need to get that experience. So I decided that I would enter Miss Oklahoma City for the experience. I was 19 years old, sophomore, and my sorority was really supportive of that. So I entered Miss Oklahoma City, and I won, which was a huge surprise, and went to Tulsa for the Miss Oklahoma pageant, and was well prepared, but didn't, again, it was for experience, because I thought I'll enter again when I'm a senior, and really more sophisticated, more practiced as a musician, and just more capable of handling the stress of that. I just still felt like a country bumpkin, We went to Tulsa, my mother and I, we were lost the whole time. I'd never been to Tulsa, and anyway, but I won. Everybody was surprised that knew me. And then I had been accepted to be in the chorus at Lyric Theater. For that summer, I'd already moved in with a friend, but I gave that up so I could prepare, because you just get one chance to be in Miss America. And so the idea of being Miss Oklahoma and wearing that sash and walking down the runway, I mean, that was really a dream for me. I'd always watched the pageant. I'd always dreamed of walking that runway and just having that whole experience. So I could not have been more thrilled, more excited. And so come September, my family and I got in the car. We'd never been in an airplane. And we drove to Atlantic City for the Miss America pageant. And I was very intimidated. And I just kept thinking, I just hope that I can make the top 10, because only the top 10 did their talent on television. And I had changed from just singing to conducting and singing. And no one had seen my talent. Not my voice teacher, not my piano teacher, not the people in Laverne, not my girlfriends, nobody, because I'd never performed it. I'd never performed it live. We had made a music tape of the song, and I practiced at home. And I got to Atlantic City, and I had a 5-minute rehearsal time with the orchestra. And that was the first time I performed it complete live.
Really?
Yes. I look back on that and I think, that's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, you don't know what you can't do.
Mm-hmm.
So I practiced it so much that it was just kind of a default setting. Anyway, so I did my talent on Friday night and won the talent. And so that was a pretty good sign that I'd make the top 10. So I made the top 10, and for me, that was just, woohoo, I'm done. This is so great. I'm going to go home and have a brand new car to drive around, because all the state winners got Oldsmobiles to drive throughout the year. I'd already moved into the dorm. Life couldn't get better than that. And then I was top 5, and then there were 2 of us standing on the stage, and except I knew she was going to win because she was so great. It was Miss California. She was everything I thought Miss America should be. She was sophisticated. She was from San Francisco. She traveled with a whole entourage of people. You know, I was there with my parents.
Yeah.
And then they called her name as first runner-up, and I hardly remember much of what happened, just snippets of that afterwards. I remember being on the end of the runway and looking into the camera and thinking, don't cry. You look awful when you cry.
Oh, yeah. I was going to ask, what even goes through a person's mind like that, with all of that attention and the lights and your shots?
I'd seen so many Miss Americas, in that moment, the end of the runway with the spotlights, and you see them and they're crying, and I'm thinking, but you don't look good when you cry. So, and then I was absolutely freaking out after that. I wasn't happy. I was scared to death, because I thought, I can't, what were they thinking? I can't do this. What were they thinking? I want to go home. And I actually thought about saying I can't do it and go home with my parents. I'd never flown. I mean, what if I got sick on the airplane? You know, I was going to fly every day, and I didn't know how to speak in front of people, and how did they miss that? You know, I think I was just so happy to be there. I didn't feel the stress of trying to win, and that probably served me well. I don't know. Anyway, fortunately, I had some phone calls. One was from a minister that I'd had in Sentinel growing up, and it was really calming. It really brought back to focus that God didn't bring me there to leave me all alone, that there was a reason for me to be there, and that I needed to lean into that and just accept this wonderful gift that had been given, and that it would be okay. And so then things, once I kind of relaxed, it was it was a remarkable year. I'm so grateful for it. It's hard work. It's lonesome. I think all the former Miss Americas, when we get together, that's the thing, that we share. It's very lonely here because you're, or at least many of us, it's not as lonely if you're 23 or 24 because you've already been out in the world. But if you're plucked out of a college dorm at 19 or 20, used to being with your friends all the time, and all of a sudden you're in an adult world with a chaperone. You're basically by yourself with a chaperone, and you're working every day. You're traveling, you're greeting people, you're performing, but it's just you and your chaperone. And it's before the iPhone, of course. So, I call my parents maybe once a week. They weren't at any event. None of my friends were around. You don't date for that year. So it's lonesome, but it is an amazing blessing to be able to experience all the things that I got to experience. And I knew that most of the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes I didn't. Sometimes I mainly just wanted to share the experience, because I had such great experiences and I wanted to share that with somebody that knew me.
Yeah, right.
Sure. Guess what I did today,
Did you write letters back
Not too
home
much,
to friends,
not too much.
You're just probably too busy.
Yeah, I was just so busy and so tired. And most of the days, I'd say an average day was get up early, get on an airplane, wear a hat and gloves, and, look really nice. Because when you landed, usually it would be get on the airplane, get a stop, change planes, be in an airplane, and get on another plane. And then when the next stop, everybody else gets off the plane, you're the last one, because when you get off the plane, there's a big press conference and a lot of people to greet you, and people give you flowers. Miss America in 1967 was really a big deal. And every place, I'd say 99% of the places that I went, I got off the plane and there was a huge crowd waiting to greet Miss America. And so you had to look good and you had to look like Miss America. I mean, you're representing thousands of young women who participated in this. And that's why you have to dress a certain way. And then so you'd have a press conference and you'd go from there to maybe a luncheon or a reception. And then from there it would be to some other afternoon event that required usually a change of clothes. And then from there to a banquet, a change of clothes. And then from there to a pageant or some other evening event, a change of clothes. And then to bed. And then the next day. So it was a grueling pace. But you're young, you can do it,
Yeah.
You can do it.
Was there anything that you like to do, maybe kind of as a ritual to calm yourself and kind of re-energize? I mean, did you journal or pray?
Yes,
or
I got
somebody.
Like because I love to write, and somebody gave me this wonderful advice. They said, keep a diary. And so I did keep a diary, and I'm so really grateful for that advice. I didn't spend hours doing it, but I have because there's so much that I don't remember because it was such a heavy schedule. My mother, who taught 5th grade that year, she had her kids, they had a great big map in the room, and she had my schedule. And so they would follow every day because I traveled all over the country. And every day they'd have a color thread for the month, and they'd follow where I would go. It was real cute. And Mother had it home for years.
Yeah. How did your family's life change, or how did your family and friends react to this huge accomplishment?
They were great. They were really great because I always felt very comfortable with them allowing me to be who I was, which was still the same person who had had something remarkable happen to them. So they were able to share in this remarkable thing that happened to me, and yet still relate to me as the person they've always known. And that's very comforting when things happen to someone like that, out of the ordinary.
Mm-hmm.
You can feel, I think you're very vulnerable to relationships with people that cannot be healthy for you. Maybe they're too fan-oriented, and I don't think that's healthy for you especially. Or maybe it's just under a false cloud in a sense, because you're not in a close relationship, you're not Miss America, you're who you are, and Miss America is part of you, but it's something that's just part of you, it's not who you are. So, I was really blessed to be able to have my family and my support system that was so consistent. And because it's a hard adjustment that year, and it's even harder adjustment to come off of the year.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
That's really
what was it like
different.
Next? What did you do after you completed your year?
Well, because I felt like I really wanted more of what I'd had before Miss America, but you can't go back. But I still tried, and it worked out okay, because I figured out pretty quickly I can't go back and pick up where I was. I went back to OCU. I still had my best friends, and they were great, and that worked really well. But what didn't work well is to think that I could go back and be an ordinary student. I was a novelty, people were interested in, and I got a lot of attention, and that was uncomfortable for me. Mm-hmm. So, like the first day I went to the cafeteria at OCU, everyone eats together, which I loved. But the first day I went back to the cafeteria after that year, everyone stared at me, and I never went back. Never went back the whole year, even though I paid for my meal plan.
Really?
So, because I was still self-conscious.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could perform. Performing is different than just being a person. I could perform as Miss America, but to be just a student, I was self-conscious and still shy. So, but my classes and my friends, everything was as normal as it could be, I think. But dating was difficult. That was really hard, because, again, who wants to go out with Miss America at 19? The ones who wanted to weren't always the best choices.
Yeah. Because
it was just not ordinary. It was not normal. It wasn't that it was ordinary, it was not normal. And it's just a better thing. It's an easier role to assume if you're older, if you're 23, 24, because then you're a young professional, and it fits into your life cycle much better then. Not that I would want to complain, because it's too great an opportunity.
It's a different point of life.
Yeah, it's just it's easier for you to take advantage of the opportunities too, if you're 23 or 24, because that year, then you're looking at, I'm not going back to school, I'm looking for a career, I'm looking for professional opportunities, and you see all that work very differently. You see it as leading somewhere. I was just seeing it as something to do until I could get back to school.
Yeah, that would be a very different mindset.
But it worked fine. I think I got married way too soon because I didn't have a good fit, though. I started dating someone pretty quickly, and he really pushed to get married. And I think I didn't quite know what to do with myself. I felt in between. I just didn't quite know what to do with myself, and I thought this was the answer, and it wasn't. So I made a bad decision on marrying that quickly after the year. It's not real uncommon for former Miss Americas to get to not marrying well at time. I think they need to settle down and try to find themselves following that year. Before they make such a big decision, probably. But anyway, it all worked out all right.
Yeah. So what did you do after you graduated?
So I graduated from OCU and I was married,
Mm-hmm.
and my husband was in law school, and we moved to Tulsa. And I did a lot of MC work,
Mm-hmm.
and but nothing that led to a career. In hindsight, I wish that I had, and I counsel other pageant winners if I can. If they ask me, I really encourage them to not take those easy opportunities that are short-lived, but instead to really plan for the long term instead. Because emceeing pageants is great fun and it's good money, so that's great, but don't think there's a career there, because there's not. So instead of taking a 9-to-5 job, that seemed like a good option for me. And I did some television work, and I did some musical theater, which I loved, but none of those really created a long-term career for me. In hindsight, I think that might have been a better choice. So I married, lived in Tulsa, did music theater in Oklahoma City and Dallas. He wanted to go get a master's in tax at SMU. So while we were there, I got to do some really professional musical theater work, which I loved. But the marriage was really not good and ended in divorce, which was extremely painful. And emotionally and in practical ways, because it really dumped me out at a time of life that was very difficult then to go find a job. And I wanted to be pregnant, and it took a long time to get pregnant. And I finally got pregnant and had this beautiful baby boy in 1976, and that's when the marriage just had to end. And so then I've got to have a job. Had no money, and had to start completely over with this baby. And I came back to Oklahoma City and really did that and started from the bottom, and was fortunate and blessed that I was able to, had lots of support.
Yeah. All right, so you had a baby, you were looking for a career. What did you do
Well,
next?
Again, because I'm a person of faith, I just feel like it could not have worked better for me. I was extremely depressed, really had a hard time existing, and I couldn't take on what would have been a demanding career. That I would have failed if I tried. So my dad helped me get a job at the Department of Education at the Capitol. And it wasn't a high-profile job or anything that you would have expected me to take. Mm-hmm. But I was glad to have a job and to have some income. And I found a family in my neighborhood. I moved where my sister was in Surrey Hills, and I found a family in the neighborhood who would keep my son. And so I took this job, and it was just perfect for the timing, because it gave me a chance to kind of heal. Yeah. And just not have the high pressure performing. And I had worked with wonderful people. And in that process, after I'd been there a little while, not very long, like months, they said, "We've got this little television job, and would you like to do something with that?" And so I said, sure. And again, no pressure. If they just needed to fill 30 minutes, I'd interview somebody about education. So I took that, and then thought, I'd really like I like television. Mm-hmm. And about that time, they were decided that women actually could do television news. It didn't have to be all men. And so I got a call and said, would you audition at Channel 5? We're going to hire a woman to anchor the news, and would you audition for that? And the pay was double what I was making. I didn't like the hours. It was going to be 2 to 11. So I talked to the family that was keeping Tyler, and they were so attached to him by this time. They didn't keep children. That wasn't what they usually did, but they'd started keeping him while I just went to exercise class at church. And they were just so attached to him by this time that they said, well, sure, we could do that. And so I auditioned, and this is something else I tell young women always, no matter whether you think you want the job or not, always give it your best shot, always. And so I didn't know if I wanted to do that or not, take the job. But I think, and this is just through pageant training, you always prepare your best. So, I did my hair and makeup, and I practiced reading into the mirror, and I had no idea what I was doing, but, and so I auditioned, and they made me a great offer, and I took it, and I feel so fortunate because if I could have researched or ever thought about it or been exposed and chosen any career, television news would have been the career I would have chosen. It was a perfect fit for me. The hours are difficult, but no job's perfect. Right. And I loved the work. And part of it is because of the writing. And people don't know. Now, not all journalists for television write what they read, but I did, and I loved doing that. And I loved and again, this doesn't work for a lot of people, but I loved this, the stress of it. I liked the drama of it. Yeah. So, for me, it's really high drama. And if you don't deal with that well, but I had so much training in dealing with that, having to perform in all kinds of situations, whether it was in an amphitheater outside or having to give a speech when I wasn't told that I was going to have to. And I think what you learn in that is you can perform in almost any situation, and you're going to mess up sometimes, but it's not fatal. Sometimes you're just going to fail, but you'll learn something, and you just keep going. And that's a really valuable lesson to learn young in your career. So, I could have just absolutely failed miserably on the air, but I was willing to try that. It was good. So I loved it. And I did that for 17 years in Oklahoma City, and I went to Dallas as well.
Did you have a particular moment that stands out that's a favorite story that you covered, or just moment in the station, or pulling things off when you think everything was going to go wrong?
Well, I had lots of small catastrophes. Yeah. But, I guess when I look back, some of my favorite things would just be the people that I've worked with. Just had it made it so much fun. I love teamwork. Whether it was playing on a basketball team or being in a musical with other people that I loved, or being part of a news team. And when you're working with people you really enjoy, and it's under that kind of stress, it's just a lot of fun. Just night after night, it just keeps you going. And I just had some remarkable people that I worked with. And it was fun when you were doing what we felt like, and I feel like, is important work, and that's informing the public of what's going on so they can make good decisions. And when I went to Dallas, I just worked with some extraordinary journalists, and my 10 o'clock producer went on to become the CBS news anchor, and a very young reporter who just out of SMU went on to become George Bush's right-hand person and head of all his communications efforts. So, getting to work with people like that was pretty thrilling. But the people I worked with in Oklahoma City, too, I just had the greatest admiration for, and I loved that. But the stories, the ones that I think had the greatest impact on me, were often the really sad stories. Child abuse, that kind of thing. And it was very hard. The stories that I do at Children's Hospital was so hard to interview people. I didn't have to interview, like in catastrophes. I didn't have to follow people around and say, how did it feel to lose your son? But I would do like stories at Children's with families that were dealing with a child that was extremely sick. And those, remember, I did a story in Fort Worth on a little girl, and I mean, her face is just vivid to me now, who died from child abuse. You know, it's just so hard to go home from those stories and get that out of your mind and heart. But then you feel like you do some good down the road. You know, you do a story on something that's something hard that happens to a family, and you get such a response of people wanting to help. And so that really feels good.
And you've written quite a bit, articles for national magazines, several books. How did you find time to do all this?
Well, they're all seasons.
Yes.
I've always just written. You know, I write a lot, just as a daily routine. I journal, but I also those were after the careers in television news, and then I was cabinet secretary of tourism. I did that, but most of the writing was after the full-time work, because writing does take a lot of time. The initial writing does, and it's all the time you spend rewriting. And I'll rewrite something. I mean, even a small article. Like I did an article for McCall's magazine. It was really fun, but gosh, I probably rewrote it 20 times. I can never let go of it. I mean, I just get it. That's why I like to work with deadlines, because I just have to quit. And television, I'm not plagued with that, because you have something, you do it. It's not perfect, but then you let go, because the times you have to put it on the air.
Right.
But writing, and then I send it out and think, how could I use that same adjective twice in the same paragraph? How could I have done that?
Kind of thing will haunt you on it. So what's your writing routine like? Are you a write first thing in the morning person? Do you like to outline, or do you just kind of go in there and see?
Just kind of. I wish I were disciplined about that. I really struggle with the discipline of writing. I was in a writing class for years, and that helped me a lot, because you had to submit something every Monday. So that helped a lot, but I don't have a time that I write. But if I did, morning is the best time for me.
Do you have a trusted reader or writer friends that
just
look over
that writing teacher? If I really needed something, I would trust her to do it. But it's just me rereading it. You know, I won't ever. Rereading it right after you write it 2 or 3 times doesn't help. I need to let it sit and read it the next morning again. And then I'll read it the next morning again. Every time I read it, I find something.
And what do you think you've learned about yourself as a writer, or just as a person over the years?
What have I learned about myself?
So you've written some memoir, right?
I have,
so you know
yes.
that going back and reflecting on your life in that way. I'm wondering if that brings about new insights.
It should.
For you.
I think that I'm a much more social person than I realized, because I've always thought that I needed. And I do. I think everyone needs time alone as a writer. And as a child, I had a lot of time alone. I spent a lot of time dreaming and reading. Reading was so important to me as a child. And I think that's because of my imagination. And I just lived through those books, whether it was Little Women, I Was Joe, whether it was Nancy Drew. I mean, I would read just tons of books every summer, but I didn't have many people to play with. And those were the days that you didn't stay in the house. You did something. So I would ride my bike all over town, and then I would sit in a tree and read, or sit on the porch and read, or I'd go swing in the backyard and dream of things. things. And then I would have funeral services for dead animals, for birds, and I'd cry. I remember.
Did you write a eulogy? Yeah.
So I just had a big imagination, I think, and a lot of that was playing by myself. The town was, the children that I would have played with from my class lived in the country. So there was no one in that small class to really play with much.
Right.
Anyway, my sister was 5 years older, and she put up with me for a little while, but not for long, because she had friends that lived in town. So I'm surprised, because I'm very comfortable being alone and working as a writer, for instance. But like I said, I love teamwork. So I guess that has been one of the things I've loved about my devotional books is that I've often, it's a slight version of that, except I don't really have their involvement in the book, which would be fun. But I do, I wanted to write about Wayman Tisdale. He's a former great OU basketball player. I had to find his widow because he died of cancer. But then I found her, and then I went to Tulsa and met her, and we had a long lunch, and I interviewed her, and then I wrote the story in her voice. And now I do that with a lot of the devotionals. So I'll find the people and then interview them and then write the devotional piece in their voice. So at least I have that interaction with the people. And that helps a little bit, but I wish that I don't wish that I were different, but that's been kind of a surprise that's in reflecting that I enjoy that. I do something else at this season of my life that's kind of the same thing, though I do it primarily by myself, which has been a surprise to me. I do a luncheon series for women, and it's turned into a pretty big project, and I have help, but it's not a team effort. It's something that I really do. But I do interact with the speaker, and I interact with the musicians, and then I get to interact with all the women who come, and there are hundreds of them. So that's really fun. I enjoy that a lot.
Yeah. What else do you like to do in your spare time, or what else are you passionate about?
I'm really involved at OCU, and I love that because I love the people involved. I love what the school did for me, and it continues to do for young students every year. And I love getting to know some of them and having that opportunity. So I believe so strongly in that opportunity for young people at higher ed and what it offers them, and it's such a great time of life. So I love that. I'm active with the Oklahoma City Philharmonic. Music's really my deal.
Yeah.
I love music, and that's a big part of OCU for me too, is the high quality of music. And I'm on through the years I've been on a lot of different boards, but now I'm kind of honed down to the things that I'm most passionate about. I'm a founding board member of an organization called SALT, which is Salt and Light Leadership Training, which is a Christian organization for leaders, active in my church. And so I think it's interesting to me as I am fairly self-reflective, and that my interests today have kind of reverted back to what they were growing up, and that's music, basketball, the church, and reading and writing. So it's kind of reverted back to those original passions, and always my family. That's a big part of it too.
Kind
the
of a
people I love,
full
family,
circle
and friends.
sort of thing. What advice would you offer to women or young women who want to follow in your footsteps?
Well, I don't know why they'd want to follow in my footsteps. They should be busy creating their own. But I think if I were to talk to myself at an earlier age, I would encourage me to worry a little less and enjoy things more, and trust that it would all be okay. Of course, getting a divorce at the age that I did, it really scared me. It was at a time that women struggled more in terms of just practical things like credit cards and getting a mortgage. But the main thing is, I think we just didn't have a sense that we could do things on our own. I never, ever thought that I would be on my own. So just accepting that. I mean, girls didn't graduate from college without getting married.
Right.
You know, it just didn't happen. They didn't go off and have an apartment with another friend and start some career or something. So it's an easier world in that sense for women. I think the hard thing for women is today and always will be balancing career with parenting.
Right.
And I could say that's the case for men too, but I think it's different. I think it's different when you're the mama.
It's a different set of expectations.
Yeah. And I think it's just different how you feel once you have a baby, what you want and how you manage that. Because you can manage it, but it's hard. And you may want to have a different timeline for your career ambitions. And I think it's okay to accept that. I think the good thing is there's really no right or wrong about it. If you can find a way to have it all, it's seldom that you can have it all at the same time.
Right.
But to be patient with that. And I think men are so much more helpful today with children. And I see my son, who's just a fabulous father, and the young men in our family are so much more involved with child rearing than they were like my dad's generation. You know, it was just unheard of for them to keep the kids at night even. You know, it just wasn't done hardly. So we've come a long way in that sense. But I do think women should think about always how they are going to take care of themselves. I think that was something that I never thought much about. And then when it happened that I was in charge of my life and my son's life, boy, it really hit me hard. And I was particularly capable and blessed to be able to have opportunities. I think women should always think about their future in a serious and purposeful way.
Great, that's great advice. So when you were notified that you were going to be inducted into the Oklahoma Women's Hall of Fame, what was going through your mind?
Well, I was really honored. You know, I've always loved women's organizations, and I have a real strong attachment to women. My friends are so important to me, and always have been. My mother and my sister were always my best friends growing up, and I have a wonderful support group of women now, and professionally and personally, I've just always been really active in women's issues, and was so honored that I would be a part of this. I do think, in my lifetime, certainly the role of women has changed drastically. And just looking at the other women who've been honored, I love the variety of the journey that we've had. It's really outstanding. And I think Oklahoma has just been rich with women leaders. And we've kind of been, even though some people may not think of us as the most, cutting edge state, I think women have always had such a strong role in this state.
Yeah. When history's written about you, what would you like for it to say? We talked about this before we started recording.
That's okay.
It's a hard one.
It's a hard one. I would want it to say that she loved God, that she loved her country, that she was passionate about Oklahoma, and that I'd like to say she did her best, but I haven't always done my best, I guess.
She kept going.
She kept going. That's good, Emily. That's good. Sometimes keeping going is the best you can do.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think we've covered a lot. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
I should have mentioned this. My year as Miss America, if you recall that I said that one of the reasons I wanted to go to OCU was to be able to be in a USO show.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my year as Miss America, every time the press would ask me what I thought of Vietnam, this was the height of the Vietnam War,
Right.
I would say, I don't know, I just want to go and entertain our troops. So I got to go. They usually let Miss America have a 2-week vacation in preparation for the turning over the crown. And they took those 2 weeks and they put together a musical group of other queens from other states. And we spent 2 weeks in Vietnam performing for American military troops. And it was life-changing for us. And I feel like that it's one of the most significant things I ever got to do. It was just so rewarding that we were able to do something, no matter how small, to those who sacrificed so much. And it changed all of us.
Oh, yeah. And I think that's one of the powers of music and performing and giving yourself in that way, your talents, whatever they are.
It is.
To uplift.
That it can be used. It's such a privilege that it can be used to help someone else when it's something that you love to do, and then when you see that it can have that it can help someone else in that way. Our presence there was so appreciated. I mean, the guys would wait for hours for our performance. They would sit in the hot sun for hours. And so we always shook hands and stayed around after the show because that's what they wanted. I mean, they liked the show.
Yeah.
But what they wanted was to be able to say hi to an American girl, somebody from home. They didn't know if they would make it.
Right.
And a lot of them didn't. So it was, and because we were from all over America, it was really neat because there'd be somebody from Tennessee, and there was Vicki who was Miss Tennessee, and Ellen was Miss Maine, and you found some way to connect with them. And we visited a lot of hospitals, and it was really special. So grateful for that.
Yeah. I'm glad you thought to
Me
mention
too,
that.
Me too.
Yeah,
That just popped
that's
up.
great. Yeah, that's how these kind of go. Well, thank you so much for
You
your
were
time,
so
Jane.
welcome.
Such a pleasure.